Welcome back. Let's get started by creating our new Xcode project here. And again, like the last one, we're going to be making this a single view application. We're going to call this one Pick That Color. And I'm going to go ahead and save it right here. And we're going to kind of obviously skip through all of the Xcode introduction in this module because we were pretty much familiar with that at this point. So we're just going to go ahead and start by working in the storyboard here. So to create the layout, let's go ahead and open the application that we were looking at just a minute ago. So the layout kind of needs to look something like this. We need to have the Start Game button at the bottom. We need to have 4 centered and equally spaced apart squares right here. And then we need to have the RGB value at the top. So I just kind of, for this first video, I want to get started by getting this part done. Let's create 4 squares and let's give them 4 random colors. So to do that, we're going to add a stack view to the layout here. So the first one that we're going to add is a horizontal stack view. And a stack view is just an element that we can put on the screen that can help us space things evenly. It helps us make things look real nice. Like you saw here, you can see that there's just like a perfect amount of spacing between all these elements, and a stack view is really good at helping us do that. So let's go ahead and add that horizontal stack view here. And I'm going to make this 20 pixels from the left. I'm going to make it 20 pixels from the right. And I'm going to click this little aspect ratio constraint here. This is probably new to you at this point in the course. So let's go ahead and add those 3 constraints. We'll start there. And let's go ahead and do this vertical constraint. Okay, so with respect to the aspect ratio constraint that we added, you can see these little numbers here. It says that this has a 20:11 aspect ratio. Well, again, if we come back here, you could tell that this is a perfect square, actually. This isn't, if we were to define it as an aspect ratio, it would be a 1-to-1 aspect ratio, meaning that the height and the width are exactly the same. They're 1-to-1. So 20-to-1 doesn't really make sense for us here. So if we go into the size inspector here and we click edit on the little aspect ratio constraint, we can actually change this from 20:11 to 1-to-1, and we can click enter, and now you can see that that little stack view just resized into a perfect square. So that's exactly what we were going for. So now let's go ahead and add another stack view. We're going to add a vertical stack view this time, and we're actually going to add 2 vertical stack views. Okay, so now we've got a horizontal stack view and 2 vertical stack views, and if you're kind of paying attention to what's going on here, you might kind of see what we're doing. We're going to try to create 4 evenly spaced squares, and so to do that, it makes sense to add these. Now, let's go ahead and go to the actual property inspector here, and we'll click on this top level stack view, and we're going to change its distribution from fill to fill equally, meaning that it's going to give each of these vertical stack views equal space. So if you see here, now that red error line is gone, and you can see that these are absolutely equal space as represented by these little dots right here. Okay, so now we're gonna add 2 buttons to each of these stack views here. So to do that, let's go ahead and click on this first stack view, and let's go ahead and add our first button, and then let's add a second one. And we'll add a 3rd one to this next stack view and a 4th one to the second stack view. So now we should have 2 buttons in the first stack view and 2 buttons in the second stack view. But we can see they're a little off here. They don't look quite right. And obviously these are a lot shorter than these are. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's click on the first stack view here. And let's set the distribution to fill equally like we did before with the parent stack view. Now you can see that these look correct. And then let's click on the second stack view and do the same thing. And let's go ahead and get rid of the text that says button, because we're not actually going to need that. We'll do it to each of these. And then now to make things a little bit easier to look at, because right now obviously it looks like there's nothing here, to make things a little bit easier to digest, let's go ahead and click on the first button. Let's go down here to background. Let's add, let's make it system green. We'll click on the second one and we'll make it indigo. Click on the 3rd one and we'll make it orange, and we'll click on the 3rd one and we'll make it yellow. And by the way, these colors right now are not important. we're just setting some default ones that make it a little bit easier to look at. So we're getting close, but if we look at the end product, we can see that there's a little bit of spacing between each of these buttons. So let's go ahead and solve that real quick. So I'll show you one more cool little feature of stack views. So in addition to their ability to just equally space elements within them, they can also add a little bit of spacing between those elements. So if we click on the top stack view and we go over here to spacing and we crank this up to 10, we can see that now we have a little bit of spacing between the two vertical columns. But we don't have any spacing between the horizontal columns, and that's because this stack view is only separating these two stack views. So these are just vertical columns. So now to add the spacing within these two stack views, we'll click on the first one, and we'll add 10 pixels of spacing, and then we'll click on the second one, and we'll do the same thing. Now we're looking a little bit better. Now we're looking more like the actual design. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. In the next video, we'll move into actually like setting some random color values. But this video has kind of gone on a little bit long, so let's go ahead and pick this up in the next video. See you then.